Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadari Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Mushnapad Paramahamsa Parivajika Jai Shuddha Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Mushnapad Paramahamsa Parivajika Jai Shuddha Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Granthar Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. We are, I want to make sure I have the right verse. Yes, I do. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 9, which we will, Appearance of the Demon Vritrasana. That's the title. Let me just get there. Text 52. Sava adhigato dadyan ashvibhyam brahmanishkalam yadva ashvashiro nama tayar amaratam vyadhat. Sava adhigato dadyan ashvibhyam brahmanishkalam. Sorry. Okay. Yadva ashvashiro nama tayar amaratam vyadhat. Sava adhigato dadyan ashvibhyam pramanishkalam yadva ashvashiro nama tayar amaratam vyadhat. Would anybody online like to repeat?
Sava adhigito dadyan ashvibhyam brahma nishkalam yadva ashvashiro nama tayar amaratam vyada.
Thanks, Prabhu. Anyone else? Okay. Sa hi, va certainly, adhigata having obtained, dadhyan, dadhyansha, ashvibhyam to the two Ashwini Kumaras, Brahma spiritual knowledge, Nishkalam pure, Yatva by which, Ashvashira, Ashvashira, Nama named, Tayo of the two, Amaratam liberation in one's life, Vyadhat awarded. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: that saintly Tadyansha, who is also known as Dadichi, personally assimilated the spiritual science and then delivered it to the Ashwini Kumaras. It is said that Dadantia gave them mantras through the head of a horse. Therefore, the mantras are called Ashvashira. After obtaining the mantras of spiritual science from Dadichi, the Ashwini Kumaras became Jivan Mukta, liberated even in this life. Purport: the following story is narrated by many acharyas in their commentaries. Ooh. Okay, there's a lot. There's a whole paragraph of Sanskrit. So should I should I read it? Tarka Prabhu, should I read it or is it okay to skip it?
As you like.
Okay.
I don't, personally, I don't care if you skip it, but if you want to muscle through it, that's great.
Okay. I just didn't know if there's some standard, like it's offensive to skip the Sanskrit or something. Okay. So translation or I guess summary of this Sanskrit part. The great Saint Dadichi had perfect knowledge of how to perform fruitive activities, and he had advanced spiritual knowledge as well. Knowing this, the Ashwini Kumaras once approached him and begged him to instruct them in spiritual science, Brahma Vidya. Dadichi Muni replied, I am now engaged in arranging sacrifices for fruitive activities. Come back sometime later. When the Ashwini Kumaras left, Indra, the king of heaven, approached Adichi and said, My dear Muni, the Ashwini Kumaras are only physicians. Please do not instruct them in spiritual science. If you impart the spiritual science to them despite my warning, I shall punish you by cutting off your head. After warning Dadichi in this way, Indra returned to heaven. The Ashwini Kumaras, who understood Indra's desires, returned and begged Dadichi for Brahma Vidya. When the great saint Dadichi informed them of Indra's threat, the Ashwini Kumaras replied, Let us first cut off your head and replace it with the head of a horse. You can instruct Brahma Vidya through the horse's head, and when Indra returns and cuts off that head, we shall reward you and restore your original head. Since Dadichi had promised to impart Brahma Vidya to the Ashwini Kumaras, he agreed to their proposal. Therefore, because Dadichi imparted Brahma Vidya through the mouth of a horse, this Brahma Vidya is also known as Ashvashira. Om Jnanatimanandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Good morning. So just for a little summary of the purport, because yeah, I had to read through it like 3 times. I was a little bit confused. But basically this narration in the purport is like another example. Sorry, let me fix that of or the precedent of Didichi being very detached from his own body. So what's recounted in the purport is the story of how Didichi had great spiritual knowledge. He's a great sage. And the Ashwini Kumaras approach him for this knowledge. And then Indra afterwards goes to Didichi and says, You can't instruct them, they're physicians. And then Indra told him, If you do instruct them, I'm going to cut off your head. So then Indra leaves, the Ashwini Kumaras come back, and they're like, You promised us that you were going to teach us the spiritual knowledge. So what we can do is that we'll cut off your head now, we'll give you the head of a horse, and then you instruct us the knowledge through that horse's head, and then Indra's going to come back angry and then cut off that horse's head, and then we'll come back and give you your original head. So yeah, this is just a a prelude to, the fact that Didichi is so detached from his body that he will give his body to be used, his bones to be made into weapons, so that the demigods can defeat Vitrasura. So yeah, very, very great sage. Even Lord Vishnu knows that. He's the one that tells the demigods, go approach Didichi for his body. And as others have been speaking about in class, the really crux takeaway from this, or the purport of this pastime with the Dici Muni is, that a great saintly person is or should be willing to sacrifice their body, mind, words, everything in the service of others. Now, not just in a material martyrdom way, where, we have so many examples of philanthropists or even occupations that are glorified, like firefighters or doctors or, um, yeah, anyway, so many other things, even politicians like that are glorified as sacrificing for their fellow kinsmen. Um, but if this is just done in a material way for the material body, then there's still extended selfishness involved. So the verse that I always forget to look up because I'm like, isn't it in the verse or is it in the purport? In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that is the listing of all the things that are actually manifestations of lust or sex desire. And it's like morality, philanthropy, altruism, all things that, were like, each one after the other, you're kind of gasping, like, "Oh, even that?" I thought that was like, I considered myself a pretty moral person before coming to bhakti. So even that is a manifestation of lust. Yes, it is. So even these, occupations that are glorified in the material world as being so self-sacrificial, they have extended selfishness involved. Even the feeling, I mean, speaking for myself too, even the feeling of, oh, I'm such a good person. I look at how many people I'm helping. Look at how many people are dependent on me, either financially, emotionally, for other resources like that. This is extended selfishness. So, yeah, this is not how a saintly person should be. The saintly person is genuinely compassionate because their end goal is to give others spiritual knowledge. And of course, we're not coming into bhakti pure, so there's always mixed motivations like, oh, we want to have spiritual dependence, we want to feel that little like maybe there's some like ego boost mixed in with genuine compassion, wanting to help people. But gradually in time, all of that, if we apply the process properly, then all of that transforms into genuine compassion. And that's what it takes to reach out to others, is even if, either we have genuine compassion or we're praying to be able to get genuine compassion, or, yeah, for the mercy of Krishna, to be able to manifest genuine compassion. So Didichi Muni had that, and this is evinced by his detachment from his body. That he's like, sure, you guys need my body, and then he gives so many instructions after that. So it's a very nice pastime. Um, yeah, I really, one thing that I wanted to focus on is in this. Let me see, it's in the oh, in the translation and in the word for word, it's speaking about being liberated even in one's own life. And yeah, I was listening to different lectures, and I've been reading all over the Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. So I'm like kind of pulling from a lot and fusing a lot together. But yeah, basically when thinking about liberation, just thinking about what it takes in this life to achieve that goal and go back to Godhead, go back to Krishna, and what's stopping us. And I was listening to one very nice lecture that was explaining that if we can conquer over our lust, conquer over sex desire, then that's 50% of the way to liberation. And I was so, I've been just like telling this to my devotees because I'm like, how crazy is that? How inconceivable. Basically, that's 50%. And then the other 50% is like, just do some devotional service on top of that, and your ticket is guaranteed. And don't make offenses. So just, glorify devotees every chance you get, do devotional service. And then if you can just focus your energies on, yeah, conquering over sex life, of course, through the process that we've been given, but just, having an eye or using your transcendental intelligence for what arrangements to make in life to be able to make that possible. So whether it's which ashram you're in, conquering over sex life in Grihastha ashram, in Brahmacharya, and then, yeah, subsequent ashrams, and then doing some devotional service, and you're like, boom, you got the ticket in the hand. So, and it's our job then, just don't give it up. So yeah, I was just talking about this with some devotees that, sometimes it can feel like, oh my gosh, we have to control our senses in so many ways. We're like, gotta sleep less, gotta eat less. I have to, watch what I'm saying, watch how I'm speaking. And sometimes it can just feel so overwhelming. Like there's just, when you have so much to do that you just kind of check out. But whenever I heard this in this lecture that if we can conquer over sex life, then yeah, we're 50% liberated. I was like, wow, that makes things so simple that, even all these other things, like, like I said, sleeping less, eating less, controlling this, controlling that, like it's all meant to come to this point. So sometimes also it can feel like, well, we're trying to focus on so many other, controlling our senses in so many other ways, and like skirting around this main issue, or like I said, what it's all supposed to be leading towards. So when I heard this, I'm like, well, that makes things very simple, and it just brings us back to focus. Everybody likes getting the most bang for their buck, right? So you want the most return on your investment. So, instead of just yeah, I guess trying to focus on like, this is it, this is the thing, this is the way that I need to control my senses, is it's really a problem that I'm um I don't know, once a week I have one chocolate cupcake or whatever, and I'm like, I really got to focus on like stopping that. It's like, okay, well, you could, but one, what's the end goal of that? Is it just, or like, I shouldn't sleep in a bed, I should start sleeping on the floor. Um, then okay, is it just so that you feel like you're just more austere, and that you get like a little ego boost that way, and you're like, wow, look at how renounced I am, I'm sleeping on a yoga mat? Or is it so that you can, you're trying to train the senses, control the senses in order to come to this point of controlling sex life, which is, like I said, 50% of the way to liberation. So anyway, I hope I'm making sense, but it's just something that I've really been thinking of, is like, yeah, don't lose this central focus. Of course, this is the what not to do side, or what to control side. And then, like I said, the other side is just the positive, like, yes, engaging in devotional service. And in our process, the two are inextricably linked. The more we're attached to Krishna, the more we get the higher taste, the easier it will be to, yeah, let go of all lower tastes. Man, I just heard something else really very nice. Oh, I heard this quote that Krishna is so pleased by our effort to conquer the lower self. And I was like, wow, that's really nice. I wrote it on my wall. I mean, on a whiteboard on the wall, not just in Sharpie on my wall. Um, so yeah, that's eventually, we, like I've been saying, we're conquering the lower self in order to come to the point of, yeah, just being so detached that we're able to, through the process of Krishna consciousness, that we're able to give up everything. Like the Dichi Muni, they just came to him and they're like, please, can we have this? And he's just like welcomes them with open arms. Yes, please. I've been waiting for you guys. Please take my bones. So yeah, we kind of have this like, well, sorry, I'm switching topics maybe a little bit too too quickly. That I have a few notes here. They're just a bit out of order. Okay, yeah. So basically this yeah, conquering lust actually it requires a daily effort, or conquering lust, anger, greed, envy, like all the impediments to bhakti, all the enemies of our bhakti lata bij. So we can't just say, oh, but I dealt with this yesterday. I dealt with my greed yesterday. I dealt with my anger yesterday. I dealt with my lust yesterday. Why do I have to do it every day? Well, it requires a daily effort, just like, you know, nobody complains, well, nobody criticizes rather that somebody's going to work every day, even for 30 years. Imagine, being a bus driver for 30 years, that it's not like you at the end of 30 years you get to be like the CEO of the company or something like that. It's a daily grind. And yes, one might complain about their job, this and that, but they're dutiful, 5 days a week. That's what whether I feel like it or I don't, that's what I'm going to do to provide for my family or some higher goal. And in this example, not speaking about devotees who have occupations, but in this example, let's just say like somebody's doing this materially and their higher goal is just to, yeah, provide for their family, or even their higher goal is just to have finances to provide for their sense gratification. It's like if somebody can do that for 30 years, 5 days a week, just to not even, get to the point of CEO or whatever, but just after 25, 30 years, whenever a bus driver's in like their 60s, then maybe they get to be appointed supervisor where they're in the office and, behind a computer, making everybody's schedules and routes and keeping track, everybody's on time. And that's what you achieve at the end. But imagine for bhakti, not just 5 days a week, but 7 days a week, we're really applying ourselves like, okay, this is my occupation. I've chosen my occupation in this life. Whether you have you know, I guess you could say another occupation, working some job, um, like, yeah, Krishna Surya Prabhu doing sound, like, uh, I don't know the title of your job, sorry, Krishna Surya, but basically doing sound for production, sound production, something like that. Anyway, that's one occupation, but the real occupation, like, um, at the heart of a devotee's life is this daily occupation of conquering over the lower self through the process of bhakti. And the yields that one gets from that occupation and the goal that one achieves and the promotion that they get, not even at the end of this life, but even after, well, we can experience it in the here and now. But even if, let's say, you had 30 years of just really like, if bhakti feels like a grind, like every day, oh my gosh. Well, still at the end of 30 years, you'll definitely feel some effects. And at the end of life, um, we'll certainly, get the ultimate reward of going back to Godhead. Whereas conversely, for somebody that's just, fully engrossed in material life, is they're grinding so hard for temporary benefits. So Dasi Prem Prabhu was talking about Shreyas and Prayas the other day. Um, so yeah, the Prayas is just the temporary benefit or the immediate benefit, and then the Shreyas is the long term. So somebody engrossed in material life might be going off of this drive of like the prayas, okay, well, I worked so hard, so now I have enough money to go spend, $150 on drinks at the bar this weekend. But then at the end of their life, there's so many examples, even from devotees and their parents. Their parents are leaving their bodies, their parents are on the deathbed, and then they're turning to their devotee child and they're like, will you please chant for me? Actually, you were right all along, or like, I am proud of you. I see what you were doing with your life, this and that. That at the end of the life, somebody that's engrossed in material life actually doesn't get any shreyas. They're just, yeah, they're just so fearful because they don't know where they're going next. And it's a rare person nowadays that even practices spiritual life, some religion so intensely that they're confident on their deathbed that yes, I know I'm going to heaven, I know I'm going to be with God, or that they're confident of their next destination, actually. So yeah, we have to do this daily effort. And I was thinking of just going along with this, speaking about occupations, is that even if we want to, yeah, somehow come to the stage of benefiting others to an ounce of the amount that Dadichi Muni was willing to do, that we have to also keep ourselves healthy and fit and put in this daily effort so that we can benefit others too, not just ourselves. But if you have a doctor, let's say, or somebody like a doctor that's working in the ER, I've heard some people on this call might have family members that are nurses or maybe work in the ER or in the hospital. But sometimes they have to do crazy, like 36-hour shifts. I'm like, man, I cannot even imagine. Do devotees even stay up that long on like John Mastami? What would that would require you to have like, yeah, I think devotees probably do. Somebody's probably stayed up 36 hours for John Mastami, like just not slept after feasting and everything like that and gone to morning program the next day. It sounds like Venu and Leela. And then gone to morning program the next day and then done a whole day of service and then they sleep. Wow, that would be crazy. Imagine doing that. I don't know how often ER doctors do that, but imagine doing that like even just once a month. That would be crazy. So, yeah, a doctor has to keep themselves healthy and fit so that they could imagine the stamina that that requires. You like, I was listening to some health podcast or something like that. Um, about adrenal health and like, your adrenals are in charge of all your hormones. And if you're stressed too often, then it taxes your adrenal glands and you just get like so fatigued. So I was listening, this man had been an ER doctor before, and he was saying that basically he would just have to run on like his fuel for those stints was like coffee and donuts. And then at a certain point, he just got so slammed that he was living a lifestyle like that, and then um, he couldn't even get out of bed for like months because he just like damaged his body so much. So in order to really benefit others, like we can have stretches of time where it's like full yagya mode, we're like we don't even know what energy we're running on. But then a devotee also has to know how to recharge for Krishna. And best is that we're putting, like I said, we're putting in this daily effort, daily hearing, as we often quote Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, any daily hearing and reading and recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam in order to keep ourselves healthy. Uh, it's really like a diet, If you imagine even how gross and like lethargic you feel after 3 days of, I don't know, feasting or just eating things that don't agree with your body. So imagine we're the same if we're not chanting intensive japa or not reading properly or hearing properly. We start to feel very spiritually lethargic, and our spiritual immune system is compromised, just like our material immune system is compromised if we're not fueling our body properly, getting proper rest. Yeah, it's really a form of self-care. And then, as I'm saying, not just self-care, but then to be able to extend that to others. It's like the doctor has to be healthy in order to help others. And we can delude ourselves into thinking, oh, well, like I've seen doctors that, they go out back for a smoke and like do whatever, live a life of just like eating poorly, not taking care of themselves. And then even though they have knowledge of, what's going to happen, they're going to get heart disease, something like that, they still do it due to uncontrolled senses or just not caring about themselves. So yeah, we shouldn't be like that in bhakti, basically. We should really cultivate a mood of, even if I don't care about myself, my spiritual master cares about me. Um, so I should do it just on his order and with the faith that this person cares about me even more than I care about myself. So let me just, especially after we've taken initiation, it's like, well, uh, just like Sanatan Goswami and Lord Chaitanya and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, like Sanatan Goswami, wants to commit suicide. That's him, right? And then Lord Chaitanya is like, you think this body belongs to you? You can't just like go around making these decisions. So, similarly, we might want to just act willy-nilly, do whatever we want. We don't care about ourselves. We don't care if we trash ourselves materially or spiritually, but the spiritual master cares. And yeah, we're Krishna's property. I mean, we're always Krishna's property, but especially at that point, once we've taken shelter or have taken initiation, it's like, well, it's not just me I'm consulting now, and my mind I'm consulting now. It's like there is somebody that cares about me even more than I care about myself. So yeah, and here's another quote that I really liked. This is David Maurice Maharaj was saying that enemies of the soul can be defeated, but we have to put in a daily effort, and then we'll be peaceful. Everybody wants to be peaceful, right? So, yeah, one really nice way of defeating the enemies of the soul that at least I've been thinking about because I can see or I've been noticing the pattern that I really have a need to like improve things. That's just like my nature. So if it's not in one area of life, if it's not my spiritual life, it's going to be diverted into a relationship, my room, like this could be cleaner, this could be neater, like that. And so it becomes like an obsession. I remember my spiritual master like said something to me about this. Yeah, basically that I'm a perfectionist, and so he said, be, something along the lines of like use that for your japa, be a perfectionist with your japa. And it just hit me the other day that I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't think of it as perfectionism. I thought of it as like improving. So I'm like, yeah, I should just focus on improving my japa, and then everything else in life um will, like become more clear at least. I still have to put an effort, to sort certain things out. Um, but everything will just become very clear how to do that, and we get more spiritual intelligence. So everybody to some degree likes to improve things in life, unless we're just like in the mode of ignorance or a slug. So improving the japa will improve everything in life and make it so much easier to, as we've been saying, conquer the lower self. So improving japa, based on my tiny experience, requires so much backtracking or sorting out of other areas of our lives. So we have to think, okay, what's the environment that I'm chanting in? Is it conducive? Is it distracting? Like, is there a lot of movement? Does it distract me if people are chanting japa and they're pacing back and forth? So it's a very personal thing. For some people, that might not bother them. For other people, it's like, okay, I really need to think, what temperature does it need to be so that I'm awake but also not distracted by how cold I am or the noise or, whatever. And then also what's going on with our occupation. So whatever service you're doing, whether that's literally going to work and making Lakshmi that way, or you're living in the temple, what's, is my occupation, are there things happening at my work or service that is really disturbing my mind? Are there some interpersonal conflicts? Is it really physically taxing, like too physically taxing for my body, or is it too sedentary where I'm not, getting enough movement and exercise? What's my diet? That's a really big one. I'm sure every devotee probably has that experience because if you're trying to at least be somewhat regulated, then you feel it in the morning whenever you wake up at the same time and you're like, oh my gosh, it feels like I got hit by a truck. What did I eat yesterday? And then when do we sleep? When do we get up? What do I think of when I'm falling asleep? What do I think of whenever I'm waking up in the morning? How are my relationships? So many things. It requires, and I've heard this multiple times that, if we want to improve our japa, just that we have to sort out so many other areas of our lives. And it's actually once we become, instead of like fighting against it, once we just become very determined to improve in this way, then like I said, even before you start chanting the improved japa, ideally based on the improvements you've made in other areas of life, even just that desire, like Krishna as Super Soul sees that desire in your heart that I want to improve my japa. And even from that point, you start to get the intelligence like, oh, okay, so that will require like maybe I could try out this adjustment, that adjustment. Krishna's just so pleased by that, like even the little, sprout of that desire in the heart. He's like, finally, now I can give you some intelligence. And then we just feel so enlivened. It's so enlivening because japa is our main connection, holding the bead bag like this is my ticket back to Godhead. This is my connection with you, Krishna. And then just by trying to focus on that a little bit, yeah, we feel so much better. Like, wow, now I'm really doing something. Like everybody wants to, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, it's also like amplified via my personality, but um, everybody wants to feel like they're doing something in life. Like we're progressing towards a goal, we're achieving something. Um, so if we make it about our relationship to Krishna specifically through the via medium of japa, then yeah, well, naturally, there's no way you couldn't feel enlivened, you know? So yeah, I just like I'll end on this point is that just going back to Didichi Muni, and it's also related to what I was just saying about japa, is that whenever we look through, reading the pastimes of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we can see that all the happy devotees or happy personalities in the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita are the ones who usually have everything taken away in some capacity. So and the ones that are lamenting are the ones that are like holding on for dear life or who wanted material things. So, like, let's say Dhruva Maharaj, for example, he's lamenting, man, I just wanted broken pieces of glass. Krishna, you're what I really wanted all along. You're the real jewel. So he's happy because he's gotten Krishna, and then lamenting because like, how could I ever want anything else? And so, yeah, there's so many. I mean, Prahlad Maharaj is taking so much shelter of Krishna that he's just, repeatedly somebody is trying to take his very life away, and he's still so blissful. Pingala, she gets everything taken away, or at least comes to the realization, um, where, feels attachment, where it's like either things are taken away or they just become detached from what they already have. Similarly, is it Rupa Goswami that was living with his family and they're very like aristocratic and then he wanted to run away and Lord Chaitanya was saying, just uh remain peacefully, or is that not him? Sorry, somebody can correct me at the end. Um or is it Raghunath? I think it's Raghunath. Okay. So anyway, so yeah, they all the happy ones in Srimad Bhagavatam, all the happy devotees in Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita either experience some detachment from the things not directly connected to devotional service that they have, or they straight up just get it taken away. Um, and then those who are either they either lament after the fact that, like, oh, how could I have ever wanted something other than Krishna? Or they're lamenting in real time because they're trying to fulfill material desires that uh, cannot be fulfilled, or even if they are fulfilled, are unsatisfactory because you're just trying to, grab onto the shadow potency, whereas we want the real deal. We want Krishna. We don't want to go hug. We want a hug from somebody and we would go hug their shadow. It's not going to be very satisfactory, even though we know, oh, that shadow is technically, I guess, a part of them or coming from them, emanating from them. Um, but it's not them. So it's a very frustrating experience, like trying to grab smoke. Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna end there and see if anybody has any questions or comments, realizations. Which of the six Goswamis was it that was living at home and Lord Chaitanya told them to just wait it out there? Karika Prabhu, do you have anything?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to compile my thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
Takes a while sometimes.
Okay. Do you mind if I leave it? Yeah. Okay. Here.
So I haven't formulated it fully yet, but I was just thinking, thank you, really nice class. I have many points about japa, like improving your chanting will make things clear. So, yeah, I guess I'm just wondering, like, how do you, um, excuse me, like when you're trying to make a really big decision, it seems like that's like takes up the whole mind. So how do you basically like prioritize making room for japa? Because it might seem like, oh God, like this is so important, I've got to figure this out. Or like even when you're chanting, that's like the main focus in your mind. Like this thing just keeps coming up this way, about that way, about this way. So how do you just like stop everything and be like, no, like I just need to chant that, like come to that state of of goodness? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good question. What I think has worked for me in the past when I do remember to apply it, um, and even recently, it's, is that I have to think about it in like a very selfish way where I'm like, okay, this is really preoccupying my mind. So the only way I'm going to be able to get intelligence to resolve this is to like Krishna, please give me the intelligence. But I'm thinking of it like, yeah, I guess there's a little bit of maybe like humility there just from what I've read, or that intelligence is there that like, okay, I can't solve this on my own. Let me pray to Krishna. But it's really like, man, Krishna, I know you're gonna give me the best answer, so let me just like it's like cheating off a smart kid in a test. I'm like, okay, Krishna, you just give me like what's the best answer because I know you know what it is. So or at least we'll get, even if the right answer doesn't come like right at the end of our japa, then at least we'll get some more, um, a little bit more clarity on what to do. I mean, we all have experience, right? But it's so easy to forget that you're like, oh, that one time, like I really just like focused and I'm like everything became whatever issue was there became so clear. Or like you ever had it happen where so in the morning, like I don't know, before japa, you just like read a message or you hear something or you see something and you get like upset with another devotee. You're like, how could they do that or whatever? And then by the end of japa, you like they either like send a follow-up message like, oh, sorry, I was wrong, or like just somehow the situation resolves, or it's like not what you thought, and you're like, man, I just thought about for that for my whole japa, and like I didn't even need to because like Krishna like sorted it all out. It's humiliating. We're done. So I don't know if that helps at all. That's really just been my like tiny approach. But does anybody else have any advice or thoughts on if they're really like if somebody is yeah, just really having to make a big decision and is very preoccupied with that, or Krishna, sorry, like chanting is like cheating off a smart kid. Um, yeah, just how to not let it preoccupy your mind during japa, or how to call out to Krishna in those times. It would help me too, and probably everybody on this call.
I Hi Krishna, wonderful class. Definitely don't have any advice, but wanted to, I guess, join in on those feelings of like, I remember having an experience when I first started reading the first started reading the Bhagavad Gita. And I remember at the time, there was like so much going on in terms of like, I moved so much that year. There was just a lot going on. And I remember I was just told to, what's this? Devamrita Swami. He was like, I asked him a question anyway. He was like, read and chant. And I was like, okay. So I started doing it. And I just remember I was chanting and I was like trying to find places. And I just like felt in my heart, like I literally heard so clearly in my heart, stop doing this. Everything's going to be fine. You do not even have to look at this. And I was like, am I being delusional or is this like real? And it's like, no, relax. And I'm like, no, this can't be. Anyway, I was like, you know what? Fine. Okay. I will just listen. You're right. I don't have to do anything. All I have to do right now is just chant and read, and I'll do that. And man, all I did was chant and read. And it was like, boom, 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 boom. You didn't even have to do anything. All you had to do was just chant and read, and seeing how like the situation was resolved itself without my endeavor at all whatsoever. So yeah, I don't know if that's relevant at all, but just that's my
Very relevant. Thank you. That's so nice to hear. That's like the kind of examples, devotees give, and then you get so much more faith. You're like, man, I should try that. I got problems in my life. I should try doing that. So thank you. That's really, yeah, it was just reminding me too of, um, yeah, just one time like something crazy was happening, like just anyway, pretty prolonged crazy thing. And I remember we were talking to Devamrita Maharaj, and he was like, yeah, I'm chanting 48 rounds a day to like make it through this turbulence. And I was like, what? I'm like, there's so many, we gotta be doing some practical things. Like there's things to address. And just to hear that that's like, even, I guess, I don't want to say even at that stage, but it is like something in the mind is like, whoa, even at that stage, like this person is like, taking more shelter of Krishna instead of just like, we got to sort this out. We got to sort, like make all these arrangements, like quote unquote, I guess, external arrangements is just it's so mind boggling for the material mind, basically. Because it's like, we want to feel like, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to fix it. So yeah, your example is like right to that point. That's really amazing. Anybody else have an example or advice or just anything that they try to do in those instances? Those instances when material life is hard. Anybody relate to that?
Material life, of course, is always hard. Um, I was referencing yesterday a conversation between Srila Prabhupada and Hayagriva Maharaj, and Hayagriva was complaining about the difficulty of his sadhana, particularly the regulative principles. He was saying that it was hard, and Srila Prabhupada said, so being in Maya isn't hard? And of course it is, and it creates so much difficulty and very stressful to be in Maya. But I agree that the chanting and reading is an excellent solution if sometimes you're overwhelmed by the various circumstances that arise. Taking shelter of Krishna by hearing, chanting, and reading is an excellent approach. I know a lot of devotees and myself as well. Sometimes, if we're faced with some kind of a dilemma, we didn't have an answer for, sometimes just taking a book, one of Srila Prabhupada's books, just open to any random page and start reading and see what you get. And miraculously, much of the time, it seems to perfectly address precisely the issue that you're facing, or somehow or other it directs you towards a solution. And I I guess, I kind of do something like that frequently. I read in these days at least, I read in a peculiar manner. I don't read from cover to cover a particular book. I do most of my reading presently in the database. I do keyword searches for topics that I have questions about or something that I'm trying to understand more deeply. And then I just follow links and gives me a really thorough and deep understanding of whatever it is that I'm researching. And then I take a lot of notes because my memory is abysmal. But in the process of doing that, all kinds of issues that I'm facing day to day get questions are answered and issues are resolved just in the course of reading. So reading provides a lot of practical direction, and chanting provides a lot of clarity and detachment from the things that are causing you to be stressed and overwhelmed. And the two together is a fabulous 1-2 punch that seems to solve a lot of problems. I think it must have been decades ago that I realized that these things, two important aspects of devotional service, are really the solution to every problem. And my tendency, I think, has become as second nature to just take shelter of chanting or reading or some other aspect of devotional service. Because my God, there's been a lot of stressful situations in my life. I've been through a lot of things, incredible things. It's been pretty hard. I've been through a lot of things, and sometimes it's been quite overwhelming. Um, I always imagined that my latter years would be much more peaceful, but that I'm sorry to say that hasn't been the case. I'm still struggling trying to accomplish things in Krishna consciousness. Now, today, for example, let me see here. One moment. Um, let's see. I'm looking at a debt to my broker of $937,000, almost 38,000. There's a maintenance call for presently $65,800, which I have to pay today, and I have no means to pay it. So I'm depending on just hoping that the market somehow or other improves today, and that maintenance call could disappear, but it may not, and I may be forced to sell a bunch of shares at a dreadful loss, and losses can be pretty severe. Sometimes I suffer losses of literally millions of dollars. I have lost at times. So that can be stressful for some people. I'm one of them. I sometimes find that a little stressful. But my refuge is hearing and chanting that heals everything, and somehow or other I'm able to deal with extremely stressful things and carry on. We're out of time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thanks, Prabhu.